Welcome everyone to our chapel chat. As you can see, Father Matthias is gone, so we are once again a fatherless house. There's weeping and gnashing of teeth every night, and raucous parties as well, because why not? So first of all, Christian has something that he's been working on this summer that he hasn't told anyone about. So Christian, what have you been doing this summer?
Well, I guess I've been attempting to learn how to play guitar from a very great teacher, someone that I look up to very much. Yeah, no, Father Joe's been trying to teach me how to play guitar, and I think I'm doing okay. There's definitely making great progress, I think.
He's doing great. I used to teach guitar lessons when I was in high school. I haven't done it in probably about 15 years, but Christian wanted to learn, and so here we are.
And it's only been like 2 months. Like, you've made a lot of
Yeah,
progress.
you have made a lot of progress. You're doing great. So we had a ton of questions. Thanks so much. It's good to see that people are submitting those. It was way too many that we could answer, though, so sorry if yours didn't make it in this Rectory Ramble. One of the questions was, do priests do hospital visits? And the short answer to that is yes. Next question. No. But the way it works usually is some chapels have their own priest chaplain on site. For example, U of M Hospital down in Ann Arbor, they have Father Lou Eberhardt, who's there full-time every day. So if you ever need a priest, you just ask the staff and they'll get him for you. St. Joe's in Ann Arbor used to have a chaplain, but they've been having some issues. They don't have, I think they currently don't have one actually. St. Joe's in Livingston also is so small they don't have their own chaplain. So for sure, if you're ever in the hospital, feel free to call Father Matthias or call me. As long as it's not really far away, most of the time we're able to do that. And if we're not there, just because we don't know, and there's only so much we can keep track of. So if you haven't called the parish, we may just not know you're even there. So definitely, if you ever need a priest to come visit you for anointing of the sick, and you're in the hospital, feel free to give us a call here, and we'll come out. And if we can't, then we'll at least send somebody out, a deacon, to bring communion or something. So yes, we definitely do hospital visits. And I actually was back in the hospital for the first time in months because they've been locked down, but now they're starting to let priests come in once again for anointing and all that. So another question we had was, do we have a housekeeper? They mentioned that the rectory always looks fairly neat. That may or may not just be the use
push the mess.
Yeah,
behind the camera.
the camera is carefully placed. No, it is fairly clean, and that is thanks to first of all these guys. I mean, they're fairly clean and help keep the house clean. But we also have a housekeeper. Her name is Jan Diskin. She does a great job. So shout out to you, Jan, if you're watching this. So we're very grateful for that. Helps our house stay nice and clean. Next question is a little bit more of a serious one. The question was if, obviously we're all thinking about death now more than ever because of COVID, but also because of Deacon Dave dying so suddenly. And so the question was, if I'm afraid of death, does that mean I don't have enough faith? And it's certainly a very valid question. And I don't know, what do you guys think about that?
I'm going to say no. I mean, just because you're afraid of something, that doesn't mean you lack faith. I think everyone, in some sense, is afraid of death. It's something that we don't know exactly what happens, or it's something unknown. So we're just naturally afraid of something that we do not know, and so it's just also it can be scary to think of, not waking up again.
Yeah.
And what happens after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Most with everything that you just said, Christian. Especially just like the only thing we've ever known is how we living. Like that's the only thing that we've ever been accustomed to. So not living in this same way, this capacity, that's very, very foreign to us. So
yeah, I'd say it's not necessarily a sign of lack of faith. I think on a human level, everyone is afraid of death, no matter how holy you are, because it's just like you guys have been saying, there's a lot of unknown about it. But at the same time, I would push back a little bit on what you're saying, that fear should not be overwhelming us, right? Because of Jesus and the hope we have in the resurrection and the promise that he gives to us, it shouldn't be this crippling fear that almost takes over our day or takes over our mind. If that's the case, then there very well may be a place of growth that Jesus is inviting us into, because death is scary and it's something real that we're all going to face one day. and it's fine to have just a healthy amount of fear, just in a human way. But it shouldn't be this overwhelming sense, because Jesus conquered death, right? That's the incredible hope we have, and even something as terrible as death itself is powerless before God.
I like to think of the martyrs,
Mm-hmm.
because when you think about how they died and what they went through, there had to have been fear
Yeah.
in what they were about to go experience.
You're right.
But their will and their love for God overcame that fear, which
Right.
allowed them to
Right.
do that. But there had to have been fear before
Yeah.
what they were about to suffer.
Yeah.
So
So our next question was on discernment. How is it that you discern diocesan priesthood versus religious life? So first of all, just a little explanation about what the difference is. So diocesan priests they make their promises of obedience to their local bishop, and it's definitely a different lifestyle than for a religious life, because diocesan priests are usually off on their own, or maybe with one other priest in a parish, and they almost all do parish ministry. That's sort of the charism of diocesan priesthood, is that you're serving in local parishes. In religious communities, you make your promises to the superior of your community, which for men it might be a monk or an abbot, or it might be a priest. Sometimes not, though. And for women, there's a similar thing in religious communities. There's the mother superior, the mother general. And instead of being tied to a particular diocese, in religious life you're tied to your order, and so they can send you, depending on the order, you might be sent all over the place. I mean, two of my sisters are Dominicans, and they get sent all over the country because that's what their community does. So it's definitely a little bit of a difference, and the life is very different. In religious life, there's much more of a community. You're all living together. It's rare that they live on their own, although there are some communities that have them live on their own. There's a lot of variety, so it's hard to kind of summarize it all briefly. But so anyways, the question was, how do you discern between diocesan and religious life? Did you guys ever, or you're in formation to be diocesan priest, did you ever think about religious life?
Yeah, something that, when you think about these different things, like, okay, wow, what appeals to me? What desires do I have for diocesan life? What desires do I have that might correspond to different religious orders? So I know big for me before was like the desire to be poor. So it's like, okay, diocesan priests live that out to a certain capacity, but then different religious orders take a very radical vow of poverty. So it's like, okay, Lord, and ultimately, you never discern in isolation. You always reach out, and you to the orders or to the vocation director of the diocese, and you also bring it to God. So, short answer is I mean, I can think about it all myself, but you kind of submit that to God, surrender it, and He's the ultimate. This is where I'm calling you.
How about you, Christian?
Yeah, I thought about it. I wrote, or I had emailed between me and this one order before I joined seminary again for Carmelites out in Milwaukee at Holy Hill, and for some reason I just thought it would be just really cool to be a Carmelite. I love their habits, the brown and then the white over it, and thinking about being in Holy Hour with a hood.
You could do that in our chapel. You can wear a hood.
That's true. And I just thought, just in living out the radical life of poverty, chastity, and obedience in such a real way. And then my sister's also a Franciscan, and she described it really a beautiful way about religious life. It's the vocation where you're living out your heavenly life here on earth. And I thought that was just so impactful. And so, I discerned it a bit. But ultimately, I decided on diocesan, which even during this summer, it's just been a huge affirmation, because it's just realizing, yes, religious life would be amazing, and I think I'd enjoy it, but there's just something different about diocesan where you're trying to live a religious life, but in the midst of everyone else in a secular world. And I think that's just it's beautiful in its own way.
I actually always wanted to be in religious life when I was a kid, because my two sisters were in religious life. That's just what I grew up with. And diocesan priesthood wasn't that appealing because I didn't want to be alone. And I ended up going to diocesan seminary, mostly because that seemed like the only option at the time, and it'd be too long to explain all of it. But for me, a lot of it was just like circumstantial. I kind of just wound up going to diocesan seminary because I knew a lot of the guys there. They were from my home parish, and it just seemed to work well. And then when I was there, I didn't think much about whether I was called to be diocesan or religious life because I was still trying to figure out, am I just called to be a priest at all? Like, let me figure that out first. And that took time, but slowly, as I was in seminary, it just seemed like all of these doors for diocesan priesthood kept opening. Meanwhile, there were no doors opening for religious life. I mean, I was visiting different communities and praying about it, and none of it seemed to be like the right fit for me. And I remember once in prayer, I just had this moment where it seemed the Lord was saying, you're searching for this in all of these other places when right in front of you is this beautiful path to diocesan priesthood that is all opening, and you're attracted to it, and it's going to be life-giving. And so I just kind of slowly drifted into the direction of being diocesan priest. And the clear moment for me was actually, it was on my summer internship, kind of like you're sort of unofficially having right now. But I remember praying in the chapel, and that summer there was a bunch of really powerful times in my life, because that was like the climax of all of my discernment was that summer. The Lord was really helping me just to finally be sure about what I was doing. And there's a moment when I thought I'd sort of resolved that whole debate in my heart about whether I was doing the right thing with becoming a diocesan priest, but it kind of came back during that summer. So I was just praying about it once in the chapel at night, and I just had this very strong, clear sense that Jesus was saying to me, the Diocese of Lansing needs good priests, and I want you to do this for me. I was like, okay, like that's what I'm going to do then, Lord, if you want me to do this. And along with that, obviously, is the trust that God is going to be there for you, because no matter what you do, whatever vocation you choose, there will be things that you might be afraid of or things that you might not know. And it's all about just abandoning yourself to God and trusting that He'll be there. So, moving on. Next question is, are there any difficulties what is difficult about being a priest or a seminarian? What do you guys think? Putting up with me and Father Matthias, is that top of your list?
Yeah.
For me, it was going into seminary and realizing that I don't really have my own time to myself anymore. When I was working out in Kalamazoo, I could do whatever I wanted with my evenings, or on the weekends I could go wherever I wanted. And now you have to practice this obedience to your formators and to the seminary. And you have to be there. You have to be present. You have to be present to your brothers, and you have to study on weekends. And so I think that was probably always probably the hardest, giving up your free time.
Yeah. What do you think, Brian? Nothing's hard. It's all easy.
I had something and then my mind totally blanked.
Brian hasn't had his nap yet today, so he's not
I'm
quite
exhausted.
firing at all four cylinders. Well, I could give something that's difficult for me as a priest, and it's interesting. Whenever I talk about this with people, they're usually surprised at the answers they'll get. But for me, the hardest thing is, as a priest, you're sort of caught between the tension of two realities: the fullness of the gospel and all of the implications of the gospel, particularly moral things, because that's where the rubber meets the road, and then real life, complicated, messy situations with real people that I know and love and care about in the parish. And almost all the time, the one who has to give sort of the hard message in those situations is me. I'm the one that has to come in and say, well, no, you shouldn't be living together. This isn't helpful for your marriage. Or no, there's another common one. No, we can't sprinkle the ashes of grandma in the river because that's not in accord with the church teaching on the sacredness of the human body and life and after death and all that. And there's like tons of it. Like whenever there are those complicated situations, I'm the one that has to be there and try to bring people into an awareness of what God teaches us in these situations, not in a harsh way, at least I try not to, but often it's difficult because sometimes people don't want to hear it, and it's kind of parallels parenting. Parents are the ones that have to say the difficult thing to their kids, even when their kids don't want to hear it, but good parents are willing to say what's right for their kids, even if it's unpopular, and it's the same as a priest. So that's probably one of the harder things, having to do that all the time.
I remembered.
You remembered? All right, Brian, what is it?
No, a really hard, really just difficult thing for me about being a seminarian is that it's not like a final vocation. So you have religious life, you have priesthood, and you have married life. Those are like kind of the end goals, so to speak. Like, you look at it that way. And seminary is just like, it's been like, I've heard it compared to like being engaged as a young couple. It's like, we're not really married yet, but we're pretty committed here, but we're not like, there's just an ambiguity. Same thing in seminary. Like, Lord, I'm giving my life to you, but I can't give you my life completely for another 5 years, and I can't really minister to people in a way that a priest would. And there's like a lot to be desired, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's difficult, and especially like, I don't understand how these studies are really helpful. Like, I don't necessarily care about all this philosophy stuff and whatever, but ultimately you just really have to trust the Lord that, like, okay, the church knows what she's talking about, like, that this stuff is helpful, and that you've called me here for a reason. So
I'll never forget, once in seminary, there was a priest who said, in a certain sense, your time in seminary is the most generous time you have in your life when you're on the way to becoming a priest, because in seminary you're pouring your whole heart into this, and it's hard. It's kind of like boot camp. You're in this rigorous spiritual formation program with studies and a strict schedule and all these things, but at the same time you're not experiencing the life-giving joy of being a priest. Like, you're just pouring yourself out and you're getting almost nothing back. And in fact, you're often getting like criticism and things you got to work on, and it can be difficult. Whereas as a priest, like, yes, the intensity definitely ratchets up a lot, and there's a lot more responsibility and weight on you, so to speak. But at the same time, the amount of joy and fulfillment that comes from doing your priestly ministry is so powerful. So, like, you get a lot more out of it, is kind of what I'm getting at. So that was what the priest was saying. In seminary, it's this completely selfless gift. And that really helped me get through seminary, because I was like, okay, that's sort of a positive way of looking at it, just being selfless. Mm-hmm. So one last question. If you could have a superpower, what would it be? Definitely the most important question we talked about today.
It's a fun one. I mean, when I think of superheroes, I just think of the Marvel movies and everything. So I'm just going to go based off of that. And so there's this one character from X-Men called Jean Grey. And she's basically, what is she?
Telepath?
A telepath. Right, but she can also, she also has like a different type of power where it's just very powerful, and she can control anything with her mind, even.
So you want to control people with your
But you can't really.
Well, it's like manipulating things.
Right.
Like, I could pick up that couch with my mind and move it into
also
the pile.
elements too. Like, she can make herself fly. She can just do anything.
Sounds like she can do anything.
Right.
Christian wants to do anything.
But you can't control people's minds with this. Like Dr. X, Dr. Xavier can control people's minds. She can't do that, I don't think. Like, she can just take. I think she can manipulate the physical person, but she can't enter into the mental realm.
My superpower, I just want to be able to fly. That's all. Being able to fly would be so cool. Maybe not the most. Maybe not the most like useful, but it would just be awesome.
Yeah, super strength is one of those things where I feel like that'd be practical. Like, man, I got to carry all these groceries back to the house, and I can't.
Well, flying would be practical. I mean, think how fast I could get up north if I could. Fly. I could go up there for an afternoon and come back.
A real superpower, like a legitimate superpower, go through the whole day without a nap or coffee.
I do that every day.
Have no repercussions.
Every day, Brian. So I already have a superpower. I can survive without a nap and coffee.
They're called donuts. Well,
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. If you have any questions, you can click in the link in the description. And until next time, we'll see you later. To screw it directly to the wall, so get it like right up to the wall.
Hey everybody, my name is Deacon Mark Martin. Some of you may know me from St. Mary's in Pinckney. I'm staying there for the summer with Father Dan, and I'm here to defend the good name of St. Mary's and squash all these people from St. Pat's in Brighton.
Hello, my name is John Buchanevich. I'm living at St. Mary Magdalene this summer, and I frequent the Brighton Rectory household, and today they have put upon me this game of, I actually forgot what it's called, bouncer ball or Gaga ball. And so I'm gonna play today. It's my first time. You'll get to see me do it, and hopefully I will beat everyone here. Stay tuned.
Christian here again. I'm about to play a little Gaga ball. They call me the Enforcer, aka the Destroyer, aka Ball So Hard. We're gonna see what happens. Probably come out with a victory, maybe 3, but we'll see.
My name is Brian Arborsmaker. At seminary they call me Uber Smasher. So I think that speaks for itself.
So I'm Father Joe, and hopefully the grace of holy orders will pull me through, because these guys seem pretty competitive.
Not fair. I've also got that.
Okay, Mark also has holy orders, but I've got more holy orders.
Gaga, ball.
No, it was too high, so he did. Oh, he got him. Got you.
It did?
I think I got the back.
got you there.
Got him. Oh, you got me. Woo!
Gaga ball.
No brakes.
Good run.
Oh, this is so tiring. Brakes are for schismatics.
New round.
Gaga, ball.
Gosh. Oh, got him. That was too high. So I'm still in. Okay, touch it. Oh. That was off.
Come on, Reverend.
Come on, Mark Martin.
Battle of the orders.
Come on, deacons are better than priests.
Mark!
I don't know, that hit my
That was
knee.
high.
It was high.
It was high.
Another.
All
No
right.
go.
Let's go.
Charge him!
That's it.
Okay.
Gaga, ball. That was it.
Oh, I got you.
Gosh, dang it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Christian.
I think they got me right there. So what do you have to say, Christian, about your victory?
It was well fought. Guys worked hard. Everyone played fair, and it was good. Ball so hard doesn't lie. Comes out with a victory every time.
Go St. Pat's.